Hey Impact, Joe Musso coming at you here with video number 5 of our 6-part series. Today we're going to look at number 4 of the 5 things, which is loving God more than our own comforts or lives. Now my goal with every video as we've done so far is to ask the question, what does this look like in our lives? So I want to start this video off with the greatest commandment of all. And we read in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. First of all, we see from this passage that loving God is the form of obedience. In fact, all other forms of obedience come as a result of us observing this commandment. If you go back to our obedience video, what you see is me quoting Jesus saying, if you love me, you'll obey my commandments. So, obedience is the result of us loving God. But there's more to it than that, and I've chosen a story in the book of Luke that I think demonstrates this very well. So we go to Luke 10 and we read. Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. But one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her. There are 3 things that I would like to point out from this passage. The first one is distractions. Many of us as American Christians choose the distractions over the good portion, and because we do, we find ourselves troubled and anxious about many things. Second, I'd like to point out the treasuring. It's obvious that Mary treasured Christ above everything that was happening around her, and there was nothing happening around her that was going to get her up from Jesus' feet. The same is true when we love Christ more than our own lives, more than our own comforts. Nothing will get us up from his feet. Many American Christians are living lives where they're saying, I'll pray later, I'll read my Bible later, maybe I'll go to church next week. Christians who love God say, well, I'm choosing to take what is not necessary and set it aside, and I'm choosing the good portion because Christ said it will not be taken from me. And that brings me to my third point, the end result. Jesus said Mary has chosen the good portion which will not be taken from her. I've experienced this in my own life. Several years ago, I used to go to the movie store 4 to 5 times a week. I would spend at least 2 hours a night watching movies. I decided to give that up, and I started reading my Bible during that time. Since then, I've felt my joy increase. I feel like I've grown in wisdom. I've perceived that I have grown in respect and in favor in my community. Plus, I've saved money. So I've seen or experienced firsthand how choosing what is better brings blessing. Now, if we remember back to winter camp, we talked about Matthew 13. And it's there we read, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. In extreme cases like Stephen's in Acts 7, we see that they didn't even consider living here as necessary. In fact, they treasured or loved Christ so much that they saw him as a better portion than their very lives here on earth. And because of that, they're willing to lay down their lives for his sake. We see these people do things like choosing the lion's den over abstaining from prayer. We see them choosing the fiery furnace over bowing. We see them building arks, facing giants, telling off kings, and much, much more. Today, here in America, I believe we would see similar saints disconnect their cable, risk losing their jobs, give up their spot on the starting lineup, lose relationships, save money for giving it away rather than for buying toys, and much, much more. Now, as I wrap up this video, I feel that there is one overwhelming question that needs to be answered. How do I live a life that loves God more than my own comforts and my life itself? Well, I think that would take another video. So I'm going to do a bonus video. We're going to change this series from a 6-video series to a 7-video series, and I'll get at that next week. Otherwise, Impact, you know I love you. God bless you richly. I hope you have a great week.